lovely to connect with you on this beautiful spring morning. The birds have been just in such amazing, not to sound so corny, but jubilation in the past few weeks. Spring season and the spring equinox and the beautiful warm mornings that we've been having, and everything is in bloom here. I was hoping to record this podcast when I was out in Ojai, but it didn't quite work, so I am recording this right here on our home front at the Ballona Creek wetlands, and it has been truly pristine here. Such an amazing, beautiful transformation that's been happening here along the wetlands and on our, half acre here in Los Angeles and throughout Los Angeles. As many of you listeners out there are from the Los Angeles area have also witnessed. We are seeing fields of green everywhere and lawns turning green, and then beautiful blossoms and blooms everywhere. And along the Ballona Creek wetland, the beautiful wild daisies, yellow and white, have just taken over the fields, and it's really unlike anything we've ever seen here. We've been in this area probably for close to 10 years, and have never really seen such a bloom. So it's such an incredible testament, really, of the transformative power of life, which is very much reflective of this season. We see it in spring, season after season, and for us here in Los Angeles, the spring seasons haven't looked so transformative during our drought, and so we were very blessed with amazing rains, and we are definitely reaping the beautiful benefits of it. And I just want to touch on how that so reflects our own being and our own life. In those areas that we may feel despair, or we may feel like we've been stuck, or that there's so much death and grief around us, or we may feel that about what's happening in our world. We might get really downhearted and feel that it's unchangeable and that it will be like this forever. I think that what we see during the spring season very much reflects the reality and the truth and the fact that change is always happening, and that really nothing stays the same. And sometimes there are undercurrents of patterns or cycles or situations that seem to keep returning, that create suffering or despair or angst in us and in our world. And it's so essential for us to look beyond those challenges and really open up our perspective and see the reality that many, many, many events that have created tremendous hardships in our lives or in our world have always changed, have always transformed and led to something beautiful and something good. And I think that in lies our practice that enables us to be able to see a greater perspective, and not only allows us to see a different perspective, but also empowers us to be co-facilitators for change, for transformation. And so when we get maybe downhearted about our own personal lives, or we get downhearted about what's maybe happening in our world, the various practices that we may participate in, and everybody that's listening here today may have a different practice than my practice, or, than other listeners. But some kind of practice that we may do that has a base of chronic building that helps to develop and strengthen our life force energy, that connects us to a greater awareness, a greater presence, a greater being than just ourselves, enables us and empowers us to see things in a greater picture and greater vantage point, and also gives us the energy and the clarity and the fortitude, and aligns us synchronistically and resourcefully to that which we need in order to create change. And sometimes this can feel like, it's just never going to change. It's never going to shift. It's going so slowly. It seems to be getting worse and not really any getting better. And I again feel like our season so much reflects and supports us with that process within us or in our world. You know, when we plant seeds in the spring season, we don't plant the seed and then instantaneously see something sprouting within that very moment. There is a process that goes with that planting. There is time that goes with that planting. And then sometimes there's a process where we do a planting and there's really not a harvest, or part of the field harvests and the other part of the field does not harvest. In that process, we learn. We learn from that. We learn that, maybe that part of the soil is not the best place to plant, and maybe those seeds are not the best seeds to plant. So there's a learning process. So sometimes when we've planted seeds, metaphorically in our lives, and things have not manifest time that we're ready for them to manifest, it's important to know that even in that non-emergence of a manifestation, there is a learning, there is a gaining, there is something for us to receive from that experience that leads us to the next planting, the next seeds being set, and the fulfillment and the manifestation of our harvest. We plant seeds sometimes too, that there's some things that are planted that have to be pulled out. Weeds start to come in, and we have to go in and we have to clean it out so that we can allow the emergence of the purity of the seeds to create a bountiful harvest. And that again is what our practice is for, is to help us while we've planted seeds to be able to clean out the weeds of our fear, the weeds of our worry, weeds of our suffering, of our grief, of our shame, of our guilt, of our anger, our resentment, our frustration, so that the soil is opened up for a rich harvest. And that is very much reflective of this season. This season is very much about spring cleaning out. So it's not only a time for planting seeds, but it's definitely a time for clearing out. And we do a lot of this in the fall and winter season, and so that we can set ourselves up for planting in the spring. And during the spring, we're also planting and cleansing and clearing out. The spring season is a season that is reflective of the organs of the liver. We work a lot with the liver in the spring season. We also work with the joints, the tendons, the muscles. And the liver is a place where anger and frustration can get stuck and lodged and create havoc in the rest of our body. The liver is very much a cleanser, and if there's stagnation, both with what we may be ingesting food-wise, if there's a heaviness from the winter season, and if there's a heaviness from what we've been ingesting mentally and emotionally, then that gets really stuck in that organ and then can ripple out into our joints, into our muscles, into our skin, into our eyes, and create havoc. So I very much invite you to explore spring cleanses. I actually also offer an online spring cleanse. I offer an online cleanse that's available to you in any season, anywhere that you are. Whenever you register for it, you receive a protocol that supports you particular to that season. It's a really good time to be doing some cleansing, both with what you're ingesting and as well as what you are digesting related to life, and cleansing and clearing your internal palate on a conscious level. And of course, we do this on a daily basis with our yoga and Reiki practice. And our yoga and Reiki practice gives us a daily ability to cleanse and a daily ability to plant new seeds and to open ourselves up to receive. So I want to touch on a little bit on mantra and how that can be supportive in both cleansing and in planting seeds. And I want to talk about mantra related to both a Reiki practice and a yoga practice. And for those of you out there that are yoga practitioners, especially those of you that are Kundalini yoga practitioners, you're familiar with Kundalini yoga mantras. There's also mantra that's available in any meditation practice as well, practitioners. So Vipassana has a form of mantra that they use, and there's all kinds of Buddhist and Taoist and other forms of yoga that and meditation that use a form, a particular form of mantra related to their practice. Mantra, I just recently heard too, a beautiful way that Guru Jagat defined mantra is mind focus, mind direction. And that is what, in essence, mantra does, is it gives the mind a focus. It gives the mind a direction, which plants a seed. Our minds create. Our thoughts create, as well as our feeling tone. It's not just mind, it's mind joined with the heart, because they actually say that the heart has cells that are connected to the brain, and that the heart actually has a greater amount of the ability to create than the mind itself. So there's a greater resonance and frequency from the heart center than from the mind. So often we think of mantra just related to directing our mind on the brain level, but it's also directing the mind in the heart level as well, to open up the heart, to clear it out, and to plant those seeds so that you can create from your heart center, from your soul's essence, from your soul's passion, from your soul's truth. And that's why with each season, it's so essential to take time to reflect, to cleanse, to clear, and to realign to your true heart's purpose, to your true heart's essence. We can so much in life get pulled into situations that are familial, that are related to our families, or we can get pulled into situations that are happening in the world around us. And that is just part of life. That's how life occurs. But if we don't have a daily practice and we don't have a cycle in seasons where we're taking the time to reflect, then that begins to shade off and create layers of disconnect from our true essence, from our true flow, which then creates illness in ourselves, mental, emotional, and physical illness, and then does not serve in any way those people around us that we may have gotten pulled into assisting. At some point, we get ill. We're unable to care for them anymore. So it's very important to use mantra to help to clear and cleanse that heart center, that heart space. And so there are countless Kundalini yoga mantras, and I highly suggest, if you are interested in learning about Kundalini yoga, I have an online Kundalini yoga course, which is great for beginners, and it's also really great for avid Kundalini yogis, to give you some more foundational practices and to support you in strengthening your home practice. And there's a mantra that I work with in that video that is a mainstay mantra in the Kundalini yoga practice, which is very much about aligning with your truth, with your heart's truth. So utilizing some kind of mantra on a daily basis. One of the things that we learn in Kundalini yoga is to do a meditation, mantra meditation for a 40-day cycle, which really activates change on the brain wave level, on the gray matter of the brain that shifts ingrained patterns, familial patterns, karmic patterns. So 40-day cycles are really powerful, as well as 21-day cycles. In Reiki, we work quite a bit with 21 days, and that comes from the mythology or myth that Usui went on a 21-day fast. It was not a 21-day fast. Nobody really knows how long he went there for, but they say that it was around the 20th day that he had his profound Reiki experience. So there is 21 days is 3 weeks, it's 3 sevens, and that is a transformative number that creates change. So finding a mantra that you resonate with during the spring season, and if you want to use the one, I highly recommend using the one on my Kunalini Yoga video, and working with that on a daily basis for 21 days to support, or 40 days to support transformation and change, and clearing, really deep house clearing, and then planting of new seeds. There's also the mantra in our Reiki practice, and I've recently, in my Reiki teachings, have instilled some requirements for, as part of certification in all my levels, to support practitioners in really taking what they learn in the classes and implementing them on a daily basis. I've witnessed over the past 13 years of teaching that students really benefit when they use what they've learned over the weekends at home on a daily basis. I've witnessed those that don't and those that do, and what an amazing difference there is. So I've really found that it's really not beneficial to my students and really dishonoring to them to just give certificates to individuals and not really support them in continuing their practice. So I've instilled a 21-day practice for my students. It's really been beautiful to witness the shifts that have been happening for people and the empowerment that's been happening. And part of that is utilizing the mantras. We have a couple of mantras in the Reiki practice. The first mantra that we learn in Reiki level 1 is the 5 Reiki precepts, the Gokai. And we learn how to chant that in Japanese, and what I invite my students to do is to chant it in Japanese 3 times, and then you can add a 4th one stating it in English. And of course, if Japanese does not resonate for you, you can chant it 3 times in English. The reason that we do it in Japanese, it's just like Sanskrit. It's originally written in Japanese, and it has a vibrational tonality that invokes a spiritual essence, a spiritual power, if you will, just like Sanskrit, that or Gurumukhi, that is the Kunalini Yoga language that's used for Kunalini Yoga mantra. So when we chant the 5 Reiki principles on a daily basis, it's not just about chanting so that we can, which is part of it, entrain the words and connect with the words, but we're also opening up to a vibrational frequency that sets up a flow in our day, so that when worry or anger arises, we find ourselves moving to noticing gratitude and focusing on what is good in our lives, rather than focusing on the worry and in the anger. And it also sets us up so that we're more aligned to our path, to our truth, devoting ourselves to a flow in our life and in our path. And it also enables us to be able to practice kindness to ourselves in challenging times, and also to those that are challenging us, to find ways to practice. And sometimes that kindness is to just walk away and not confront a situation that would create volatile responses. That could be the kind act. And then we watch transformation happen when we practice these principles. So we chant these precepts to intention for them when they were created by Mikao Usui was as a way of life, but to also just remove the blocks that is in us from the flow of Reiki. That's what the Reiki principles are about. That's what the Reiki symbols are about. That's what these mantras are about, is to remove what blocks us from what is innately within us, which is Reiki. Reiki is really just about living in alignment, being that flow of divine prana, that flow of grace, that flow of peace, that flow of creation, that flow of joy, that flow that just transforms itself through its essence, through its beingness, which we see in all of nature, which is so reflective in this season. It's in nature, which is in us. We are part nature, we are part divine. The earth is part nature and part divine. It's a co-creative creation, and we see it all the time, this amazing transformation, rebirth that happens from fields of brown death to these fields of beautiful colors and green and blooms. That is reflective of our cells. That is a reflection of our tissue. So these mantras of the 5 Reiki principles and the Reiki symbols actually help to remove what blocks us from that natural flow from happening, so that those places in us that feel like, oh, this just feels like death, can be in the next moment or the next day or in a few weeks, like blooming with beautiful joy and creativity and prosperity and health and vitality. And so I just want to invite you to bathe yourself in the practices of transformation in this season through daily connection. That is your gateway to constant transformation, really, and renewal. Do please connect with me. Let me know your experiences through this process. I'd love to hear about your experiences through the podcasts. I would love to have you join us. There's still one space remaining for Mount Kurama journey. We are a full group, but we have one space, and then we are also, our registration is open for our Maui Mu journey. We'll be doing our Reiki trainings out there, the Advanced and Master training, and then we'll have our Sacred Journey where we'll do a Reiki 1 training. For those of you that are already trained in any level, it will be a refresher training for you. We'll be attuning you, reattuning you, and then of course we will just be basking in the land of Maui, in the waters, in the mystical, just magical field that is there, and fill ourselves up in the fall season and really open up to that mystical time of the fall season. So join us. Connect with me at sacredventures.com, reikiunleashed.com. Look forward to seeing you on the journey. Sending luminous blessings your way. Rich Reiki aloha love. Sat Nam. Namaste.